The Atlanta Hawks upset the Philadelphia 76ers in the second round to advance to the conference finals, and Ben Simmons has a lot of heat on him after this series. He attempted only 3 shots in the fourth quarters of this Game 7 series, 2 in Game 1 and another in Game 3. Now, he famously passed up a wide-open dunk in Game 7, and Doc Rivers was asked if Simmons will continue to be a building block in Philly. And, well, Doc didn't give a ringing endorsement. Quote, "I don't know that question or the answer to that right now." Joel Embiid was very frustrated in the moment when Simmons passed up the dunk, and all he said was, when asked about running it back, was, "That is a very tricky question." Pat, those 2 quotes from Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid say a lot, and Simmons was a big problem at the free throw line. He went 15 of 45 in this series. So how do the Sixers move forward with this group, and especially Ben Simmons?
Well, I think you have to take a little bit of time to let the emotion settle down a little bit so you can make kind of rational, objective assessments of your team. But I think the number one priority is just after those comments is making an honest assessment of if the relationship between Ben Simmons and the coach, Doc Rivers, and Joel Embiid can be a flourishing one going forward, because those were harsh things to say about a guy who's one of your max players, who's a multiple-time All-Star. And so if that isn't something that can heal and these guys can move forward together, all pointed in the right direction, it's difficult to see this team getting over the hump. Obviously, they have some orders of business with guys like Danny Green and George Hill to take care of in the offseason. We've talked about the need for perimeter playmaking and added shooting around Joel Embiid. But I think that's the first thing you need to do is to see if those guys can all coexist together. And if you can't, what type of deals out there that you can make to build around Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and speaking of deals, Shams, Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers wrap up year 1 in Philadelphia. So how likely is a big Ben Simmons trade this offseason?
I mean, it's something that the Sixers are going to have to take calls on and offers with. And listen, they really discussed Ben Simmons heavily in those James Harden talks. He was put on the table, as much as that organization might want to deny it. Or at one point, Daryl Morey had said that Ben Simmons is a major part of our future. But clearly, they did want to get James Harden. The Rockets ended up going with the Brooklyn Nets offer with the bevy of first-round draft assets and draft swaps instead of Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, and 2 first-round picks. So they've tried to get better before, and I think that same mentality will continue this offseason. But the first step, I think, for Ben Simmons is to get in the gym and really put together a workout plan. Doc Rivers hinted at it a little bit in his postseason presser that we're going to have a plan ready for Ben Simmons if he wants to get back to work. And I think that will be of the utmost concern sooner than later, because a deal could take a while to consummate. And so in the short term, they need to find a way to get Ben Simmons right in the event that a deal does not occur.
Pat, let's redirect the heat now and put it towards Doc Rivers, because his coaching career hasn't been great in Game 7s. Now, the Sixers team blew multiple leads in this series against the Atlanta Hawks. So how much responsibility are you giving to Doc Rivers and his coaching staff for those failures?
Well, I think you can look at some things, particularly some of the lineups and ask, perhaps why not use Ben Simmons a little bit more at the 5 throughout the season. So when you have to go small in the playoffs, instead of having to play Dwight Howard in some of those non-Embiid minutes, you're playing Ben Simmons, and then he can make and be surrounded by shooters on the perimeter. But at the end of the day, when you get to this level and you get to Game 7, it's the players on the floor that have to make plays, and they have to make free throws. They have to make shots. They have to defend. So, of course, it's the coach's responsibility to manage timeouts, to put the right guys on the floor. But at the end, this is on the players. I mean, these guys are all stars. They're all getting paid a lot of money. It's guys that have to make plays down the end of the games like this to move in advance.